Right out in public is really going to be the thing to galvanize our entire coalition. And same to you, Senator Castro. Yeah.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
How are you? Hey Nancy.
Hi.
Speaks to what's possible in this great country of ours. And, you know, I think
people that she knows saying the same thing about the Care One experience.
Hey everybody.
Whoa, Bill, 2 meetings in a row.
No, on a streak.
Wow, I'm liking this.
Yeah. Finally got the bugs worked out.
Good enough.
What's up, Bill?
Hey Charles, how are you?
All right.
Evening, everyone. Hey, Catherine.
Hello.
Hello? Since the convention is on, I know people are going to be watching. They want to watch the convention.
Yes, please.
Mm.
I loved it last night.
Last night was good.
Councilman Cohen might be running late.
How's he running late? He ain't got to go over that bridge no more. I don't get it. Hold on, buddy. 5590.
And then Councilwoman Rosenberg's also running late.
You could do this via phone, right?
Yeah.
Via phone.
You need the phone number?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. I was just asking.
Yeah, it can be done via phone.
Yeah, they could do it via the phone too as well, right?
Yes.
Who else are we waiting on, Yancy?
I think we're all here. Greg is on. Bill is on. We have 3 council members, 2 are running late. The mayor is going to be calling in via phone as well. I don't know if he's on.
All right. Let's go. Let's get started. I call this council meeting of August 18th, 2020 to order at 7:30 p.m. Will everybody rise to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's the mayor. Hi, Mayor.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Yancy, could you please read the public meeting that?
Sure. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was included in a notice sent to the Record and the Star Ledger and advertised in said newspapers on January 17, 2020. Posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building and has remained continuously posted as required notices under the statute. A copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please also take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, in consideration of Executive Order Number 103, issued by Governor Murphy on March 9, 2020, declaring a state of emergency and a public health emergency in the city of Englewood does hereby notify the public that to protect safety and welfare. Sorry, someone's
We're getting some feedback from somebody.
muted them. Of our citizens while ensuring the continued functioning of government, the City Council meeting scheduled for August 18, 2020 at the Englewood Municipal Court, 73 South Van Brunt Street, Englewood, New Jersey, 07631 will be held virtually and telephonically via Zoom only. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by clicking on the link found on our website or by dialing 929-205-6099 and followed by the passcode 822-7286-0371 at 7:30 p.m. Individuals calling into this number will be able to fully participate in the meeting, including providing public comment. There will be a breakout room for closed session if required. Proper notice having been given, the municipal clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting.
Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilman Cohen, are you here? I think he's running late.
Yeah, he can't because his ass grew up poor as hell.
Sorry. You can please mute yourself. Thank you. Councilwoman Glenn?
Here.
Councilman Hamer?
Here.
Councilwoman Rosenberg?
All right, yeah, eat your dinner.
Councilwoman Rosenberg, is that you? Councilwoman Rosenberg? I'm sorry. All right. Council President Cobb.
Here.
Also present is Mayor Michael Wild, City Attorney Bill Bailey, and sitting in for the interim city manager, Greg Fahrenbach.
Next on our list is a motion to approve minutes of previous meetings. Approve resolution 172, excuse me. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Just want to go through everybody because I can't tell who's here. Councilman Cohen? Still not here. Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg? Council
Yes,
President?
right.
Council
Yes.
President?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, bills and claims in the amount of $6,445,465.92. We need a motion and a second to approve resolution number 173.
So moved.
Second.
Second. I have any questions?
Mr. Kaufman is on.
Mr. Kaufman is on. Thank you, Mr. Kaufman, for providing us with the COVID update in terms of our expenses. And I just want to confirm that you said that we are looking to receive approximately $130,000 soon, should?
Yes, yes, it was already submitted and it was accepted. We just have to wait for the money to come.
Okay. Mr. Kaufman, I have a question. We have an apparatus, and I believe the number was 20,517.09. Do you actually know what all those repairs were?
That was an accident. That was insurance. It's being charged to insurance. We received the money already.
That was an accident? An accident? Yeah. What, do you have the details? Was that something that one of our firefighters got into an accident, or
I'm not exactly sure. It was in 2019, but I could have the chief. I could get the information from the chief, exactly what it was, but it was last year.
2019 accident?
Yeah.
Never brought to the council's attention, huh? Okay. Mr. Kaufman, I got another question. IT services for $14,885. That was under, I believe, covert?
Yes. Yes.
What's the story with that?
That was that's a few months worth of work. It's about all login, remote access, Dropbox for engineering, Zoom meetings, payroll, install payroll writer, reformat with a laptop, set up phone services. It was a whole bunch of services that the IT person did for the city for a bunch of months.
Do we have a listing of those things? Can we get an itemized listing?
Yeah, I'll send you the. I could send you the invoice, and I could send you the what's in Edmonds. Exactly what it says it was.
All right, sounds good. And then we have one server for City Hall for $10,888.81.
Yes, that was charged to capital, I believe.
Charged to capital.
Was it?
You said charged to capital?
Yeah, I think when I looked at it, but that was we need to update our servers. So,
is there additional work that's going to be done under this?
Not for that server, no.
Not for that server?
Like the channel.
Okay.
Sit down a little earlier.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Anybody else not eating?
Just one question, Mr.
Yes.
Kaufman. The $130,000 that we are due to receive from, for COVID reimbursement is coming from where? The county, or is that another source?
75% comes from FEMA and 25% comes from the county, from the CARES funding.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from any council members? Roll call, please, Nancy.
Yes, Councilman Cohen still not here.
I don't think so.
Woman Glenn,
Yes.
Councilman Hamer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg, Council President Cobb.
Yes, I declare the motion carried and the bills and claims duly approved. Next, ordinances for public hearing and second reading. Ordinance 20-03. Consideration will now be given to ordinance number 20-03. Will the city clerk please read the ordinance by title?
This is an ordinance amending Chapter 286 noise to incorporate the New Jersey Environmental Protection Department model noise ordinance. Bill, I don't know if you had something to say about this.
just as we talked about when we introduced it, what this ordinance is the state's model ordinance, which can be adopted without having to go back to the state because it is theirs. If you deviate from their model at all, there's a whole nother procedure then to amend the noise ordinance. You'd have to go back to the state and get their approval and what have you. This, pretty much replaces the existing ordinance, which is very old, and potentially not in line with the state, certainly not in line with the state's current model ordinance. So really it's cleaning up and bringing it kind of up to date in conformance with the state mandates. Down the line, if the city wanted to amend this ordinance, if it's adopted tonight, and tweak it and refine it, they certainly can do that. It would then require it to go to the state. However, at least this one would be in on the books while that process is happening. So it pertains to all activities in the city. It updates and just brings things more into, the current state of affairs, as opposed to the other ordinance is probably about 30 years old, maybe more. In terms of implementing it, as we had discussed, if it's adopted, we would have representatives from the health and the police department both get certified, as well as acquire the proper noise readers, which would be calibrated and again up to current standards, which would help enforce noise violations throughout the city.
Ms. Mosmeras, isn't there an issue with the publication?
Yes, that's what I was hoping Mr. Bailey would explain.
Okay.
Did you get a chance to talk to Levi today, Bill?
I did not.
Okay, all right. So there was an issue with the publication. We had sent the notice to the paper to be published this past Monday, and they did not publish until Wednesday. So we are at 6 days, not 7 right now. So I was going to ask that you can adjourn the hearing until September 1st.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but yes, that would be the proper step at this point, would be to carry this until our next meeting to comply with that provision.
So if we carry it, Mr. Bailey, what action do we need to vote on it to carry it?
Yes, just a motion to carry the public hearing on this ordinance until September 1st.
Motion and a second to carry this ordinance to September 1st?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Could I ask a question, Charles, on this? Is this the ordinance that sets up the two officials? One is somebody who does the experimenting with the gauge, and then an investigating officer? Is that the ordinance bill that's being proposed now?
Well, this would certify probably 2 people in the police department and 2 people in the Board of Health to be certified noise decibel readers.
Good. So that we would have a way to quantify these infractions and one neighbor against another and so
Correct, correct.
Good. Thank you so much.
Need a roll call? Roll call.
Roll call.
Councilman Cohen, are you on? No. Okay, Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hayner?
Before I cast my vote, Mr. Bailey, just want to check on one thing. The other items that we discussed relative to construction, changing the time to a later time, and other issues relative to the noise ordinance, we have to pass this first before we can make any changes. Is that what the procedure that we'll have to follow?
In terms of the noise ordinance, yes. In terms of construction activities and things like that, we have a separate ordinance actually that governs that in terms of dates and times when certain activities can take place. So that we could, if the desire to governing body, we can work on that amendment now as well.
So I'd like to do that if there's no objection.
We can put together an amendment to that ordinance, which is separate than this, for the next meeting.
Yep.
If
Why don't
that's
we do that?
okay.
Why don't we do that, Bill?
And my vote is yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg, are you here? Council President Cobb.
Yes.
Councilman Cohen is on, but he has no volume. So he is present.
Okay. Next, ordinances for introduction and first reading. We need a motion to introduce ordinance number 20-04 entitled an ordinance amending an ordinance number 1907, fixing the maximum annual salaries to be paid to officers and employees in unclassified service of the city of Englewood as of January 1st, 2020. We need a motion to introduce.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Question before we proceed, could we get Mr. Kaufman to explain this in summary form?
Sure. You asked for Mr. Kaufman, Mr. Hamer?
Yes, I'm here. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
come on.
It's every year we do a salary ordinance that specifies the maximum salaries to pay the non-union positions. We used to do it once every few years, but a couple years ago we changed it for the public that they should see every year, and it just gives the maximum for non-union employees. Basically.
Thank you.
Roll call, Yancy?
Council President Cobb,
Yes.
could Mr. Kaufman also clarify that this doesn't necessarily say what someone who has that position's salary is? It's just a question of establishing a range, and anyone with that position can't exceed that range. Is that correct, Mr. Kaufman?
Yes, it's the maximum that a person could get, up to that amount. It doesn't necessarily mean the person is making that amount.
Okay, thank you.
Yancy? Roll
Um,
call.
Mr. Cohen sent me a text message that he's voting yes. Bill, is that allowed?
Yes.
He can't get volume on here.
The circumstances, yes.
Okay, all right. Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg, still not here? Council President Cobb?
I vote yes. I declare the motion carried. Ordinance
Oh, sorry.
20.
Sorry,
Excuse
just Mr. Cobb, just to clarify that the public hearing on this ordinance will take place on September 15th.
Thank you. Ordinance 20-05. We need a motion to introduce entitled an ordinance amending the City Code Chapter 254, Article 2, Section 15 pertaining to hours of operations for laundries and laundriettes.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Council President, would you,
Sir.
have one of our professionals explain what we're doing here? Because, there's a
Mr.
reason.
Bailey, can you speak to this?
Yes, sir. Essentially, there was an old ordinance on the books, well, is on the books that prohibits the operation of laundromats on Sundays, which I don't think anyone, at least in recent history, was aware of. It probably goes way, way back. So with this sort, and we do actually have some in the city that innocently have been operating on Sundays, as they do in most municipalities. So what this does is allow them.
Well, you froze.
On Sunday, what was the issue?
Historically, I could be, because I think it's like 50 something, maybe even more than 50 years old. you know, sometimes we come across ordinances about how you have to hitch your horse to a public thing, you know.
Yes.
So it's kind of along those lines. But that could be the historical significance. In these times, you have people working and what have you. Sometimes the weekend's the only time they can do it.
Thank you.
Nancy, roll call, please.
Councilman Cohen also just sent me a text message that he's voting yes. Councilwoman Glenn,
Yes.
Councilman Hamer,
Vote yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg is on, I believe.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Thank you. And Council President Cobb.
I vote yes. I declare the motion carried. Next, ordinance 20-06. We need a motion to introduce ordinance 20-06 entitled, an ordinance of the city of Englewood, New Jersey, adopting a redevelopment plan for the property identified on the city's official tax map as block 2602, lot 3.01.3.02 and .3.03, commonly referred to as ERA South.
Council President?
Yes.
May I briefly just give an overview for
Absolutely.
the public? Because this one with the pandemic was kind of put on the back burner. And I would like to, in conjunction with this, there's a subsequent resolution also on the agenda that goes hand in hand with this ordinance. And what this is last July 30th, 2019, the city approved a settlement agreement with ERA South regarding a challenge to an $1.5 million special assessment that the city had imposed on them relating to improvements and the roadway and the development in ERA South. We had been successful at the trial level, went to the appellate division, it was sent back to the trial level, and through the course of it, we ended up coming to the settlement agreement with the primary terms you might recall are where we have the vacant hotel and office parcels, which have been vacant for probably close to 20 years. The city in January or February of this year designated those areas in need of redevelopment. And as a result, ERA South would build 220 residential units, 15 which would be set aside for affordable housing. Also a mixed commercial retail space, including office space at a minimum of 40,000 square feet. And that would also provide parking and things along those lines. In addition to that, the ERA, in addition to that $8.5 million that they're paying the city, they would pay an additional $3.5 million to the city upon issuance of certificates of occupancy for those units. And there would also be a payment in lieu of taxes as part of the redevelopment project. So what the purpose of this is, once that happens under the local redevelopment and housing law, to implement those terms which are in the settlement agreement, municipalities are required to adopt an ordinance approving the redevelopment plan, which essentially is what I just described and is basically reiterating what's in the settlement agreement. In conjunction with that, under the law, once the ordinance is introduced, it needs to be referred to the planning board for what some of you have heard before, consistency review, meaning primarily that's consistent with the city's master plan. The planning board then sends it back with their report to the governing body and their recommendations, which the governing body at that time accepts, rejects, accept parts, accept whatever. It's ultimately up to the governing body. So these are really just the procedural steps to implement this. Although the case was settled, the presiding tax court judge has retained jurisdiction over it because there's so many steps that have to be taken to do this. So we had a conference with him about 2 weeks ago, and he had requested that we start, reinitiating these steps and try to get these things done within the next 60 days. So that's really the purpose for the ordinance, as well as the resolution that we have later on in the agenda. And again, this essentially is just reiterating what was already agreed to by the city in the settlement agreement. These are just the procedural steps that have to be implemented to consummate the settlement agreement.
Said a lot there, Mr. Bailey.
I tried to be brief, but
And when do you think that this will all be settled?
I think, probably by Thanksgiving, we can have everything done in terms of the ordinances and resolutions, and then they can start. They have to get site plan approval at the planning board, which again, it would be a variance-free application. So once that's done, then they start construction, which from their attorney here, they're very anxious to get going. So I don't know how long the construction would take, but it's, a significant project. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Able to hear them, but you want to mute yourself.
How do I hear both?
You want to hear? You should be able to hear it. There's your volume on.
Right.
Does anybody?
We can all hear you.
I just muted you. Okay. Sorry.
Does any other council member have any questions? Excuse me? Roll call, Yancy.
We need a motion and second, Mr. Cobb.
That's right. Bill interrupted me before I did that. Thanks, Bill.
Sorry.
We need a motion and a second. Mr. Hamer, motion, and I'll second it. Roll call, Yancy.
Okay. Councilman Cohen?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
Yes. I declare the motion carried. Next, for public comment on the agenda items. Anyone from the public has any wishes to speak to about any of the resolutions on the consent agenda, numbers 174 through 178. I ask the public to state your name, your address before speaking, and remind them that you're only talking to the resolutions on the consent agenda. And you have 2 minutes.
Just a reminder for the public, if you wish to speak, the way you raise your hand is by going to the bottom of your screen. There's a reactions button, press on that, and there's a hand that you just press on, click on that, and we already have a hand up. It says Ricardo's phone.
Yeah, how you doing? Ricardo Wilby, Englewood, New Jersey. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the non-union employee maximum salary, that's on the consent agenda, right?
No, that was an ordinance.
That's an ordinance.
Okay, because I don't have, what about the settlement with ERA Saudi? Is that on the consent agenda?
Ordinance.
That's on the consent agenda, right? What Bailey just talked about?
Portion of it.
If I may.
What?
Portion of it.
Okay, what I want to talk about is that, it's very disappointing to me to hear words like a consistency review. So within this ordinance, there's a consistency review to make sure what is built over there is consistent with what's there already. Is that what you're saying, Bailey?
No, it's whether the ordinance is consistent with the master plan.
Okay, yeah, pretty much consistent with the master plan. Where was that when the fourth ward was being dismantled? Where was the consistency review when the fourth ward was being dismantled? Because nothing that's been built over there is consistent with, the fourth ward that I remember as a kid.
Hey, somebody's got to put their phone on something on mute.
I think that's Cohen at his party when he should be at a council meeting.
I'm trying to stop it. Here, 1 second.
Yeah, there you go. All that money you're saving on tolls, you should be good. Okay, can I speak now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm hearing words like a consistency review, but it's very disappointing to me, okay, growing up in the 4th Ward, where's the consistency review when you match the master plan with everything that's built in the 4th Ward? And, you know, the city needs a community center. These people over here at ERA South, with all this 40,000 square feet of commercial space, no concessions back to the city for a community center, nothing. All these millions of dollars, all these backroom deals, nothing back to the city. We can't get over on that side of town. Or there's a security fence that's been erected already.
No.
I just want to know. Hello?
Hello?
No.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I mean, can you tell me about what's going on over here at ERA South? Any concessions back to the city?
Well, they're paying the city in total approximately $12 million and building affordable housing. No, a community center is not part of this agreement.
15 units out of
No,
230 units.
15%.
15%. So 15%, 230 units. What is that? 30 units?
Roughly.
Okay, so that still is not good enough. I mean, who's doing all these negotiations? You know, all these people like the mayor, the recycled mayor that wants to get elected, where's he at the negotiation table? Why is it that we're not getting anything? Okay, no bang for our buck. Why is it that this community center is so fleeting when there's all these millions and millions of dollars being circulated, all these big developers coming and building stuff like Hakimian and Demetrakis and all these other big names, and nobody's getting nothing. The black and brown community can't get nothing. Nobody's talking about that?
I'm happy to respond, Mr. Cobb, if you'd like me to. Wish me luck.
Respond.
So when I left being mayor in 2010, the Hakimian project was ripe and robust, and I cannot believe, you know, 10, 12 years later, it's still on the table. We could and should be asking them for givebacks to the community, but the governing body, before I got back 2 years ago, had already sealed the deal. As I understand this, Bill, there was no ordinance about affordable housing. If they volunteered to give 15% of 230 units, it was because they needed to get their pilot or their financial nut out of it in order to do it. And they wanted to reconstitute some of the uses like the hotel that wasn't going to actually be effective. I would love to answer your question, Mr. Wilby. I would love to be able to deliver a community center from any one developer or one project. If the lawyer will give me the right to ask for it, I will do it tomorrow. I don't think I'm permitted, and this is already in our rearview mirror, and it's just a finalization of litigation. Correct, Mr. Bailey?
Well, the agreement was, after many public hearings, was signed a year ago. Presentations were made by the developer on multiple occasions. And the thing you need to keep in mind is if we didn't do this, they could build a 250,000 square foot office building and a hotel, although neither one is actually viable. So they had approvals from many years ago. This is a better utilization of the property.
Well, you know, speaking for the victims of the 30-year lie, the mayor has my permission to advocate for a community center. That's one of the things he ran on. That's one of his campaign promises. Let's make it happen. Okay? Go with your coat in hand and do what you do.
Happy to. If Mr. Bailey gives me a green light, I'll call tomorrow.
Go ahead, Bailey.
Am I permitted?
We have an agreement in place already that's been approved by the court. I mean.
So there's nothing inappropriate for me to reach out to them?
Well, like I said, there's a signed agreement that's a year old.
Okay. But if they want to volunteer towards a community center, then I can put them in touch with the governing body to figure out the best way to do that.
If they want to volunteer, yeah, you know.
Good. Thank you.
Tell us for Black Lives Matter.
Nancy, who's next?
Nobody else has their hand raised.
What did you say? Nobody else has their hand raised?
No.
Okay. With that being said, I'm going to close the public session and move to adopt by resolutions 174, 175, 176, 177, and 178 by unanimous consent. We have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cohen?
He's at the party.
We have lost Mr. He's at a wedding. I don't have a message from him. All right.
Okay, let's go.
Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
So yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
I vote yes. I declare the motion carried and the resolution duly adopted. Next, items for discussion. Englewood Health Street banner proposal. Councilman Hamer, do you want to lead this one?
Sure. At our last meeting, Mike Peterwitz from Englewood Health made a presentation on a banner project for what's being proposed as a medical mile. And this is follow-up to that. It's really as a pass-through, if the council is still supportive of getting more information about it, pass it along to the planning board to have Emily Mann and the design review committee take a look at it and respond back to us. So that's essentially what's here. If there are any questions, I'm glad to communicate them back. And if not, ask that we pass it along to the planning board for their design review committee to take a look at.
I believe if everybody on the council is okay with that, you can let Councilman Hamer know that we can move on. If anybody's got any questions, let's put them on the table tonight.
Council President, this wouldn't be the last time for a discussion, but certainly based on the information here, this is just passing it along to get their comments.
Right. If anybody's got any comments, issues, or concerns, just put them out there. That's what it's here for.
Mr. Cobb, this is Greg Fehrenbach.
Yes, sir.
On a prior occasion, I had listed 6 or 7 questions that I believe Ms. Thompson-Shen had submitted to the council. My only question is whether or not those questions have been submitted to the group that wishes to put up the banners so that the council can understand the responses to those questions.
I don't believe they have been.
I'll speak with Ms. Chen tomorrow and ask
Yes,
her to make sure
with
that
her,
they
have
get
her-
formalized and submitted.
Yeah, please have her do that. And obviously you can copy all the council members, but we'll make sure that Councilman Hamer, since he's spearheading this one, he gets a copy and then he can work on that one for us. So we could have something at our next meeting.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Next, Liberty School status. I had this put on the agenda for a few reasons, but the first reason I'd like Mayor Wiles to speak to the email that he sent to council regarding a developer and educate us on what happened during that conversation, because we have yet to hear about that other than receiving those emails. So if he would be so kind as to bring us up to speed, I think that would help us a little bit here. And we're doing it in the public session so everybody hears the same thing.
No problem. Thank you, Councilman. I have heard today 3 interested parties, and on each one telephone call that I had, I asked them to pen an email to me that I forward over to either the city manager or either Yancy at the time or Jewel and yourself. The first was, of course, the Metro Community Church that I started conversations with 2 years ago. And I still think that they have a viable interest in using the facility as a church and a community center. The second was a developer, I think it's Lennar, is Ultimate Developer, introduced by a gentleman to me in a phone conversation. And I said, please coin exactly what you have in mind, and I transferred it over.
No.
I think that they wanted to do a community center with some kind of apartment complex, but frankly speaking, I told them when they told me on the phone how many square footage they wanted to do that it was going to be inadequate for a community center. And the third was Isaiah Jefferson, who is trying to put together a robust school program now, and has funding for the school and is interested in going forward, and also suggested that he might want to partner with another developer at the same time for a mixed use of some sort. Again, the fact that there's conversation, I know that Jewel, the acting or interim city manager, suggested that there's environmental work that has to be done to make the place safe. I just thought that this is the right time in the middle of the pandemic to have conversations and to move this important project forward, because it's been dormant. It's already been an area declared in need of redevelopment. As I see the property, there are Venetian blinds and broken glasses, and there's also criminal activity and vagrants that are living there. So I just want to make sure that it goes forward. Frankly, any one of these projects may be the wrong projects or the wrong constellation of projects. One thing's for sure, the Bergen Family Center and all the other wonderful groups that we have should be opining if it is going to be a community center, or what kind of community center we need. And I see Ms. Dudley joins us as well, so I'm happy to see her back and well. And that's it. Those are the three. I maybe had a conversation with each one of them. I took notes, and then I sent their emails to the governing body.
Is Mr. Volsi on the line?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Volsi, I'd like you to talk about the Liberty School and what has recently been done and what we've been doing there, and just to speak to that building. And then we're going to pivot and we're going to hear some words from Ms. Dudley as well. So, Mr. Volsi, can you talk about what's been done recently, what you've had done there?
Sure. We are actually, we've done a few things. As many of you probably have noticed if you drive by the building, the DPW has done a great job as far as cleaning up the place with mowing the lawns, cutting the shrubs and the overgrowth. We actually have a contractor in the building right now that's fixing up all the broken glass, securing all the doorways. Essentially what we're doing right now is sealing up the building, making it weatherproof and eliminating access to anyone into the premises. New locks, reinforcing the doors, and obviously shutting all the windows once they're fixed. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're securing the building so we don't have any future, issues regarding, people breaking into the site or breaking into the building. So that's being taken care of as we speak, and it should be completed fairly soon. I believe that all the first floor windows have already been replaced and closed, and the contractor is completing the windows on the upper floors right now.
Thank you, Mr. Volsi. And the aim was really to secure the building.
That is correct. The aim was to secure the building and basically make it more appealing, basically spruce up the curb appeal of the building.
Until at such time a decision has been made on what's going to happen with the building.
That is correct.
And okay, and with that, I've asked Ms. Dudley to give us a very brief update on where things stand with her, and I will say that we will have a meeting dedicated to Ms. Dudley and the work that she was doing for us in the fall. So this is not a meeting specifically for her to give all the information and details out, because she has some more stuff she has to just put together. But we will do that. We will have a meeting scheduled sometime in the fall, maybe late September, to talk about some more details around the subject community center. But we will also have a meeting to talk about the subject Liberty School as well. Ms. Dudley, if you're there,
Or you have to unmute yourself.
she's muted.
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure it out.
Wait a minute, I think I found it.
Found it? Okay.
Yeah, you got it. You're good.
Great. So it's actually very good to be here. I have missed being involved. I've been absent, but not out of touch. And I haven't for a minute stopped, well, that's not exactly true, but I have remained in thought and in reflection on the community center. So I want you to know that. Let me say briefly, though, that while the project did not unfold as planned, I must tell you from the participation we had and the data collected, there's a lot to report that can be used going forward. The other thing that I've been reflecting on, as I'm sure many of you have, is what are the implications of the triple pandemic that we're all involved in, the political pandemic, the financial pandemic, and the health pandemic. And what are the implications of that in terms of what came out of this report and moving forward? So I will be working on that and talking to the council members about that as well. So I'm looking forward to the meeting in the fall, and I look forward to bringing my part to closure. And again, I think because of the unyielding interest in the city and in a community center, this will come to pass, and hopefully in a way that will please most of the city, if not all of it.
Thank you, Ms. Dudley. Next, we're going to have communications from the mayor and council. Mayor Wiles.
Hang on, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Good evening, everybody. Most of my remarks are able to be found on social media. I'll just highlight a few. In the middle of a pandemic, we just want to wish those that lost loved ones and are still reeling from the 60 souls that we lost in our city much comfort and love. We also want to say thank you to the businesses that are opening and investing in the city of Englewood. We cut ribbons in the last week for Deli Express in Hudson Avenue, Schnitzel Plus in East Palisade Avenue, and Plan Shed also at Englewood Florist. And we have 2 more coming up next week. I invite the governing body and any members of the public to join us as we encourage them. Pilates in the Park is robust. The Black Lives Matter walks, these are peaceful protests. I've had the privilege of walking in the last 7 or 8 weeks. They're now on Fridays and on Sundays because of scheduling issues, but please look out for social media and join us with your loved ones. It's inspiring and very educational. I had the privilege of speaking at Dwight Morrow's high school graduation, Act 2 on the lawn. They had such a proceeding on Zoom, but then we had a public one. I also want to thank Family Promise of Bergen County for the more than 30,000, I hear, meals that have been distributed, and Chef Dion at the church as well. Congratulations to William, that's Englewood firefighter, and Lita Loaiza, who I had the privilege of marrying in my backyard, to Danielle Nyman at the Environmental Commission, who already jumped in with both feet and is already serving up good ideas on the Environmental Commission, and to Shalice Trusty on the Library Board, who I had the privilege of swearing in last evening. The storm recovery was extraordinary. I'm not going to belabor all the points and achievements. All I can say is that, and I think I speak on behalf of everybody, how proud we are of the work of our public works, the fire department, police department, even the people that I had to deal with at PSE&G who prioritize the underpower that we had at the fire, the lack of power at the police, and all the people with defibrillators and frozen food that was lost, and you should seek reparations for that. We have some upcoming event. Women's suffrage will be celebrated at the library. The final touches of that will be coming to be. Empower the Youth, a Bergen County NAACP event at Janice Dismas School, and so forth. I can tell you that I believe residents, because they're more at home now, are engaged and with not just emails and calls, the noise ordinance is a very important issue as between private residents and public uses in residential corridors. I want to encourage everybody to please sign up in the census. We are not scoring well enough to make the high rates as other communities in Bergen County have. And that's not good when it comes time to getting resources. I heard also from many, many residents concerned that since the private busing to the private schools are not bidding because of social distancing, their displeasure with what's happening. And I want to thank the school board for taking responsibility in answering these residents. And it's very important that they have an opportunity to express themselves, and if there's resource there, that it's given equitably throughout the city to all students. I asked the question, Yancy, that you wanted me to ask in the weekly call to the governor, where all the mayors convene on the nonprofits, creating a process for them to be able to do raffles and keep themselves alive. They said they would get back to me tomorrow. I also am trying to get my hand around as well. I know Councilman Hamer and Assemblyman Johnson on ballot boxes, making sure that if there's any hokey pokey or funny business with the upcoming election, that Englewood gets selected at least to get a ballot box. It's so critical that people have confidence that their enfranchisement, their vote will be heard. The governor was called today, also made it clear that we should be getting full reimbursement for all the city COVID needs. So whatever FEMA will take up to 75%, the CARES Act will do the other 25%. And I'm glad to see that our CFO is putting in for reimbursement. And thank you again, Yancy, for your diligence in making sure the OEM, fire, police, everybody was putting in for overtime and all the actual costs and materials and so forth. Congratulations to the Rotary and Englewood Health for their events that are coming up. And for more details and to get greater into the weeds, join us on Fridays at 11 o'clock on the library Facebook page and my page, so that we can get into the week's work and so forth. Just again, much love and comfort to everybody who's suffering and who has suffered. Again, Joyce, welcome back. It's nice to see you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Glenn.
Good evening, everyone. I want to keep my remarks very short because I know people have an interest in watching a convention tonight. I just wanted to thank the residents for their patience during the two most recent storms we had. I know in the 3rd Ward, there were folks without power for as long as 7 days. And that's really a long time to go. And thank you for hanging in there. I also want to thank DPW, as the mayor mentioned, for being so responsive and dealing with the large number of trees that were sadly uprooted. I'd also like to second the comments about the noise ordinance. I think noise and traffic are the two most frequent complaints I get, and I hope that the noise ordinance can help give the police and the health department the tools they need to take care of this very important quality of life issue. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Rosenberg.
Thank you, Council President. I echo what everyone said about thanking people for their patience with the storm. Today I posted information on social media about some reimbursements that PSE&G is making. They're making up to a certain amount without receipts, and then the rest with receipts or proof. It's questionable what they'll accept. I would recommend that everyone submit everything they have, and I doubt they're going to be scrutinizing it that carefully if you've gone to make some effort towards showing them what was lost from the storm. And it's a pretty high amount for business owners, and you know, a couple $100 for residents. So I would encourage everyone to put in if you lost power. It certainly doesn't make up for all the frustration that people encountered, but it will go a little bit of a way towards replacing some of those costs that people had to lay out on top of an already financially difficult time. I also wanted to update on the Traffic Advisory Committee. We had our first meeting and it was extremely successful. I passed along several recommendations for improvements for hard improvements, enforcement, and traffic studies to the council, so the council can act and decide what recommendations they want to consider. As we discuss that, it of course brings up the budget and next year's capital budget, and we were very fortunate to have come to an agreement early this year on the budget, which afforded us the ability to do many more projects, even during COVID, than we have been able to do in previous years because we passed the budget so late in years before that. So I'm hoping that we can get a jump start on the budget this year. We have Jewel and all of her expertise, and we have the ability to start now to plan for next year's budget and an early adoption by the next council. So looking forward to being a part of all of those conversations. And I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and participating and helping to move the city forward.
Thank you. Is Councilman Cohen on?
Yes, he is.
Hey, Mom.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
You may have to go outside and talk to us.
I am outside. Well, I went back inside because everything is outside actually. I apologize to everybody for it being a little noisy back and forth with me tonight. I'm just at a wedding for an Englewood family that had to put off everything for quite some time. So I'm very happy for for the families and for everybody here. And sorry, just but anyway, I just wanted to say a couple of quick things. One, I first wanted to make sure also to thank our city officials, all who helped in terms of the storm. I know there was a lot of frustration, obviously, with PSC&G, but one thing I will say is that there were, the responsiveness of our own city officials, whether it was, DPW, the police, fire, city administration, et cetera, were all remarkable, and and especially under the circumstances, deserve every commendation that they get in such regard. It was a very obviously difficult situation to deal with PSC&G, and hopefully, as everybody said, the reimbursements for food and for other things, will not be as complicated as it was in us getting back our power. So I wanted to make sure that was echoed as well. Just in listening to everything tonight, also again on hearing conversations about the Liberty School and the community center. The one thing which to me is frustrating is that I've been on the council now for about 11 years, and it seems just like we're having the same conversations that we were having 11 years ago on this. I think every effort we can have to move forward on these issues, the outcomes will be the outcomes, but we have to move forward. We have to move our city forward, and one of the things that I'll ask for as I heard, I don't recall who mentioned talking about our budget moving forward, but obviously also I know that in the Liberty School conversation, in the community center conversation, one of the things that was mentioned was how we're going to have to look at all of our new realities in terms of in terms of COVID, in terms of the national climate, in terms of all the plethora of things that we are dealing with as a city and as a nation currently, which we perhaps we're not dealing with in the same kind of regard prior. In last year's budget, one thing which I had mentioned and asked for both during the Recreation Committee hearing and at the wrap-up session was that we don't need big numbers, but I thought that I mentioned in both cases that some soft costs should be allocated in order to be able to properly plan things of this nature. We all recognize that anything that we might plan before any big costs are there are very small soft costs that even things of the nature of whatever consultants to help us guide us better. If we have to talk about architecturals and just have people around to have the basic conversations to just from us having an understanding of what it is that we're dealing with, what costs are we dealing with, what possibilities we're having that anything that might be beyond what our wherever our city administration could be, use the assistance in that or bring assistance to us. But I think things of that nature demonstrate a seriousness to at least the fact that we need to move the ball forward on all of these issues. And I'm not here saying that I know all the answers, and I'm not saying that I know where those situations are going to end up. But I do know that the status quo continuing on like this is not the answer. So I look forward to hopefully, with everybody moving forward, figuring out how we can move forward, and whatever that looks like. I mean, obviously, like we said, with COVID, with the current state of the economy, with the state of the Englewood economy, with everything else, these are going to be inherently more difficult questions than they were prior. But we always talk about Englewood pride and what we can accomplish in Englewood and how all the great people that came from Englewood. So I'm sure that we have a lot of great minds here, and I'm sure that whatever the answers to those questions, those are answers that we can figure out one way or the other. So I look forward to really pushing all those issues forward. One thing I also just wanted to just say that I was happy we did tonight in starting the process on the vote on the laundromats. I think in terms of situations like that where we realize that there are people or businesses in our community currently who are in jeopardy of ancient codes that we perhaps don't even realize still existed, like this one, when we had all the laundromats opening and advertising in our community on Sunday, and theoretically they all could have been and can be consistently theoretically fined. We need to clean those things up to make sure that our local business owners don't have to worry about that and have that kind of headache. So I will, as I looked into that, I will continue to look into all of the things that can help us on a business level like that, and see how we can make sure to protect our businesses, protect our residents, and do the best we can for our constituencies in our city. Thank you.
Councilman Hamer.
Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of things. First, thank you for so many of you tuning in to the meeting tonight. Just want to highlight a few things. The first of which is today marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment being ratified by the state of Tennessee. So that is a cause for celebration. Another thing is I see Ms. Dudley here. It's really good to have you back, and look forward to completing the project that we started. The next thing is I'd like for the council to give some thought to, and residents as well, to Englewood is establishing some sort of tribute to Black Lives Matter. And at our next meeting, hopefully we can get that on the agenda and sort of figure out a process so that we can get public input and figure out a fitting tribute. So, that's just another consideration. The next thing is Mayor Wilds mentioned, establishing getting a ballot box for Englewood, and that is a request that was made to the county to have a ballot box here, and hopefully that will be decided upon. But I don't want us to, just rely on the county to do it, because if they have to sanction it, but if it's a issue of funding, we should find the funds to pay for a box to be installed here and work with the Board of Elections to make sure it's recognized and all the ballots retrieved from there, so that nobody in Englewood is put at risk unnecessarily. And the last thing is there are funds that are available. The city clerk posted some items, and I think it was sent by for citywide distribution for everyone on the mailing list for local businesses. There are funds at the county level and funds at the state level to help small businesses, and please seek out that information. The deadlines are coming up quickly, so please seek them out. And the very last thing is thank you everyone for putting up with what took place. I think our DPW did a great job of cleaning up and trying to clean up. PSE&G did what they could. This was a tough storm. We had a similar storm that knocked out about 1.5 million users across the state, and this one, and that was during the winter. And this storm, touched about 1.4 million. So it was extensive. It came in quickly. It was powerful, and it did a lot of damage. We were lucky that there wasn't loss of life like it was in other places, but it was devastating. So I believe Councilwoman Rosenberg made mention of reimbursement from PSE&G and the mayor as well. So that information is available, and please take advantage of that. And thank you, and enjoy this next piece of the summer.
Thank you, Councilman Hamer. I would just like to thank everybody who came out, who's dialed in. It's very important that we participate, find out what's going on in our community. There's a lot going on, and I think we need to be sensitive to a number of things. We, the city, needs to be sensitive that we have underserved class of people. We see people there. We're feeding many people each and every day, and we have to be sensitive to those facts and to those people trying to just survive. I think it just puts reality right back smack in focus for us. And as a city, we should be trying to do everything we can possibly, but more importantly, trying to uplift everybody in the city of Englewood. Because in order for this city to move forward, everybody has to participate and move forward. I heard some of my colleagues tonight say, moving Englewood forward. Yeah, I agree with that. But in order to move Englewood forward, we all have to work together to move it forward. And so if everybody feels that way, we will make progress. So that's a good, positive thing to hear. I would like to thank DPW and PSE&G and their partners for their responses and being out every night, every day, trying to give us service back as fast as possible. And I know some people get frustrated and because it doesn't happen as fast as they would like. But these people are out here all night long trying to get it done. And we've had a number of trees fall, large trees, in these last 2 storms. And thank God, from what I know, nobody was hurt or killed. So, and I have asked the city manager, Jewel Thompson-Chen, to put together something where we're going to do some type of assessment, tree assessment for the trees that the city is responsible for. Because my concern is these storms may come more frequent and we will have more trees down, and we may not be as lucky as to not get anybody hurt. But we have to be proactive in this, and I think it's important that we get started now before the weather starts to change. And I just want to thank our DPW from working very hard, getting a lot of that stuff up, the debris up out of the streets to keep our streets clear. And one thought here is, through the pandemic, through all the things that we've been through and experiencing right now, the city of Englewood has continued to execute and deliver services to our residents. And I think at a pretty high level. And so they should be commended for that. One of the things I want to talk about also is that we're getting close to time where the young people will have to determine whether they're going to go back to school and how they're going to go back to school. And I'm putting this out to the Board of Education to use the resources that the city has. What do I mean by that? It's the health department. Use those resources to make sure that there's a plan, that we protect our young people. We don't want them to get sick, because if they get sick, maybe they get their grandparents or their parents sick, and we don't need to have that. So we have to take every precaution possible. And so we have to let the Board of Education know that the City of Englewood's resources are there for them to use, because it's all about safety for our people. So I just want to share that and encourage that and let the board members hear that and know that, because that's very important that we do that. And I know there'll be some questions about Liberty School in the public session. However, those questions can be addressed in the fall. As I said, we will be planning to have meetings with Ms. Dudley and others. We will be looking to establish an RFP process from some professionals so we can move this project along and so we could get some answers. But the one thing is, everybody who wants to participate will have an opportunity to participate. That's how it has to be. And I think we'll, as you saw, we had this conversation tonight because I want to be transparent, because if we receive an email or receive some contact, we're going to let you know that that has happened so that you know what's going on. Because whatever goes there, it's got to be with the will of the residents of the city of Englewood. And you hear some developers, I'm not in favor of a developer putting apartments there. I'll tell you that's from me, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, because at 40 Bennett Road, that eyesore down there that I voted against on the planning board becomes an eyesore every day I look at that place. And more importantly, who's going to live there? Probably not the people who live around there. So we have to be cognizant of what we do and the decisions that we make. So I want to tell everybody to stay safe, continue to stay safe. The city has done a good job staying safe. Keep yourself safe. And I look forward to you coming to the next meeting. I will hand this over to Greg Fahrenbach, who's sitting in for Jewel Thompson-Chen, if he has any comments that he would like to communicate to the public.
On behalf of the staff, I would like to express their appreciation to the members of council and the mayor for the comments and recognition they've made of the diligent efforts that city staff made regarding the storm recovery. Secondly, I'd like to point out that the COVID-19 meetings, which are occurring twice a week, continue to do so on a coordinated basis, including the mayor, council president, OEM director, health officer, and others in the municipal staff. Otherwise, the remainder of the issues have been the subject of either emails or memoranda that have been issued to the council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll be opening up for the public session. Name, address, and you have 2 minutes to speak on whatever topics you would like.
A reminder to the members of the public present, at the bottom of your screen, there's a reactions button. Press on that and you'll see hand raised. And then click on that, and then you'll go into queue with everybody else who has their hand raised. Mr. Cobb, did you say that everybody had 2 minutes? Because I said
everybody has 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. Yes.
I'll raise my phone when the 2 minutes are up. Okay.
Yep.
All right. First on is Ms. Amy Bullock.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Amy Bullock, 312 Howland Avenue, Englewood. Just 3 quick questions, maybe 4. So my first question is in regards to the ERA. You said the city was getting $12 million. Can we put that $12 million in a trust to be held to go towards either building or sustaining a community center? You also mentioned that there's a pilot. I'd like to know how much of that pilot is going to be allocated for schools. And actually, I had another question. Councilman Hamer mentioned the city recognizing Black Lives Matter. So I'd like to throw out there the idea of actually painting a Black Lives Matter mural on Van Brunt Street in front of the police department. And Councilman Cobb mentioned in talking about Liberty School issuing an RFP. RFP for what? That's it.
An RFP for whoever is interested in that property.
So just can you provide clarity for me? Because for the property to be what? I mean, we could get RFPs responses for anything.
We'll be issuing an RFP for whatever it'll be, whatever the council deems what they want to have put there. There'll have to be some, because we're not going to just sell that property as is. There has to be some guardrails around whatever is going to be there. So we will be meeting with the professionals, and once we come up with what we believe this building can bring to us, we will share that with the public, and that will be incorporated into the RFP. So more to come, and you will be informed. Nothing will be done in the dark. Next.
Next is Diane Jansen. Diane?
Diane Jansen, 589 Ridgeland Terrace. First, before I begin, does that RFP include the ability to make Liberty a community center?
Good. I said it'll include a lot of things. We haven't decided. This is something that we're going to have some professionals provide some guidance with that. We're going to get a professional. I'm going to recommend that we get a professional RFP writer, and then we will brainstorm the council members, and everybody will have input into it. And whatever we come up with, that's what'll be there, and then we'll share that with the public.
Okay, well, I'd like to start by saying, since growing up in this area, and now I'm a senior citizen, from the Seven Sisters Hill on the east side, all the way down to the monument and farther west, those are two of the gateways of our community. We lost one very significant building to Black Lives Matter, and that is the Lincoln School. The Liberty School is a beautiful building. Thank you for trying to fix the windows. Joyce, thank you for your comments. And Mr. Cobb, also thank you for putting it on the agenda. But we're for keeping that building as city property. And the reason is, this is a community gateway. And what a wonderful place that would be for a community center in a school that only housed mostly white students, could now house everyone.
Next.
Thanks. Stop that. Next is Peter Jansen.
Good evening. Thank you for bringing forward the agenda with a number of items that are important to the community. I would like to kind of bring us through what in engineering we call a back of the envelope calculation, which is highly estimated, but it helps to give us a feel for what we're talking about when we undertake a project. So I'm talking about a development project at Liberty School, potentially. If you take the square footage, 55,000 square feet, we'll just round it to 50,000 square feet. And then we'll apply a $200 per square foot construction cost, which is basically the cost to construct a brand new 2 to 4 story office building. And you come up with about $10 million. And, you know, we'd have to go out for a bond if we financed it through the city. And the interest we pay on that bond might be $3 million over 10 years. So we're talking about $13 million total construction and interest. And if we look at how many households are in Englewood, there's 30,000 people, there's maybe 10,000 households. So the average household would pay $130 a year for 10 years for a community center. And that's, you know, that doesn't include if anybody or any other entity helps us with the costs or shared space uses, which would share costs. So we're talking about $130, you know, per household. I ask everyone to look at what a health club membership costs, or what do music lessons cost, or what do dance lessons cost, or what do country club membership costs, and it benefits the entire city. So just put it in that kind of parameters, and I think it helps frame, what we're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next is Ricky.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I thought we usually get 4 minutes to have these public,
2 minutes.
comments. Okay, so listen, I know you want to shorten this, but it's a lot of BS going on in the city. I want to say we need to get back to in-person meetings, okay? The people deserve that. The courtroom is being geared for that. I also want to talk about the retaliation to certain departments in the city where certain people are not given raises because they don't go along to get along. And that is very unfair. And there's people that have the certifications or the qualifications, and they do an independent job. They're autonomous and they don't take any orders from anybody. They do what they're supposed to do. And it's very egregious that out of retaliation, certain people are being disenfranchised for no reason. I also want to read the meaning of the word dangerous to Mayor Michael Wiles. Likely to cause problems or to have adverse consequences. I want to tell the mayor that it was dangerous for him to gentrify the 4th Ward. Okay, it's also dangerous to call the Bergen County Sheriff on a black man that didn't do anything. It's dangerous to exercise your racism through policy when you fail to deliver to the black community what you promised them when you got elected and they voted for you. It's also very dangerous to try to get a good police officer like Glenn Coley fired with your co-conspirators in Teaneck, okay? So let's talk about people that are really, really dangerous. Stop making promises to people that you can't keep, okay? You came back to Englewood as mayor because you want to springboard into being a senator. But the black community is going to remember exactly who you are this time, okay? They're not going to vote for you, okay? All you need to do is to put your mouth where your feet is and walk over to Hakimian and stop with the backroom deals and deliver what you so-called said you would deliver many, many years ago. You love to bring up Jack Drakeford's name any other time. Why don't you do this for Jack and all these black people that you claim are your friends? And I need more time, Charles. This is ridiculous that you guys are trying to silence valid criticism and remove the democracy out of Englewood because you guys are incompetent. That's it.
Next is Horace Ragbear. Horace?
He's on mute.
Where are you? You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes, good evening. Horace Ragbear, 51 West Hamilton Avenue, Englewood, New Jersey. I just have one quick comment on what Cohen said about the Liberty School. We've been talking about that for 34 years, since 1996. It's absurd that we still have in the conversation on the year 2020, with promises that was made from every city council person and mayor from that point. I actually have a letter which I'll post tomorrow, which was written by Bob Beneke, Doug Burns, and Aronson. So I'll post that online tomorrow so everybody could review this, that we've been having the same stupid discussion, and it's absurd that we're having the same discussion up to this point. All right, with that said, I have some questions concerning the 7/28 meeting, city council meeting, and the resolutions concerning authorizing a contract for government manager advisors. I think, and I've been looking and totaling up exactly what it's going to cost for us to look for a city manager. I think we had the opportunity right now where we're paying a company to look for a city manager, $13,000, but if they do a good job, we add another $7,000. I actually researched that company today. I've never seen anybody offer an extra $7,000 if they fulfill their obligation. That's absurd. All right, we hire a person for $95 an hour to do the minutes, which is 8 hours a day, $760 a day, to the 800 a week, $15,200 to write minutes. I can't understand who put in these things together. It's the city manager, Joel Thompson, will be earning 30 hours a week, $4,050. That's $16,200 a month, a little over $81,000. At the end of the year, how much is this going to cost the taxpayers of this town? People have to be financially wise on how they're making decisions. This is not good decisions. If we continue to keep doing that and keep basically stealing money from the taxpayers, by even I say offering from extra 7,000. All right, the last thing, I just have one more thing. Why couldn't we have used Yancy as the interim manager until we find someone? This way we will save a lot of money. All right, we could have asked her to continue to be the acting while we were looking for someone. We could ask her to be the city manager because we did that with Jack Drakeford in the past, and he turned out to be a very good city manager. Why couldn't we have used our options to use what we have here instead of searching and spending the taxpayers' money? Stupid as ever. I want the answers to these things, the exact cost of what it's going to cost looking for a city manager, but I want this week. Thank you.
Yancy?
Next is Angelina Rivera.
Hi, everyone. Angelina Rivera, Ridgeland Terrace. I really just want to ask that you please consider Liberty School as an option for a community center. We all see how important it is. We really could use a place, for everyone in our community, especially our children, to gather for group activities or social support, public information, or whatever it might be. Please just consider Liberty School. I know right now there's a pandemic, but I mean, if we can come up with some kind of plan or work together, there's other towns like Fort Lee, Leonia, Teaneck that have community centers, youth centers. If we could just figure out where we need to start and figure out a plan. Thank you.
Yancy, next.
Next is someone named Garish.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you for taking my call. I just had a few questions about Liberty Building. I mean, it seems now we're just in the area of decay management. We mentioned vagrancy earlier. The police, I know, just happened to be in the building 2 minutes away. So why was vagrancy ever an issue there? Why did it get to the point where, the building was falling apart and people could break into it? Now it just seems like we're spending money to fix things that should have never been an issue. Also, it's a pretty large property. Is it possible maybe that we could split the property and maintain Liberty School as it stands and build on the back lot? Third, a councilman mentioned, the times we're living in, the economy, the national climate. And I'm just wondering, when did community become dangerous? He stopped saying you can't have a community center because of terrorism or something like that. And I just found that completely outrageous. The thing I want to end on actually is just about the storm. I think that it is important to, of course, make sure that our trees are trimmed properly, but also to replace the ones that either collapse or need to be removed, because I've lived here my whole life. I mean, I'm 24. I was born in Englewood Hospital. And just in my lifetime, I've seen many, many trees cut down, removed over the course of, my short years. And I think it's important that we need to make sure that we continue to actually live in a suburb, That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yancy?
Okay, next is Santasia. Santasia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, good evening. Firstly, I also kind of want to chime in and say that I really also agree that Liberty School should be turned into a community center. It seems like a no-brainer. But either way, I'm sorry. Santasia Bar, I live on 22 Ingle Street. The back parking lot has been turned into outdoor dining for Blue Moon and Akai and Red, White, and Pasta, which is great. However, for all the residents that are working from home, living right above in those shops, there is nowhere to park without consequence. I've already been ticketed probably over 15 times. The Park Mobile app, no one really respects it. There is just nowhere to park. So I'm really positioning that there should be some sort of resident permit. There should be something in place for the residents that do live in those shops above. That's it. Thank you.
Yancy?
Want me to move on?
Next. Anybody?
Gregorio? Gregorio? I don't know who's Gregorio.
Hi, he's gonna use mic.
Okay, I'm here.
Good? Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes.
Mr. Wayne, how are you?
Good. How are you?
How you doing? I just have a quick question. I want to know what happened with the parking lot behind Palisade Avenue between Broadway and Charles Street. That parking lot over there is looking like a disposal place. It's a place everybody drops everything, garbage from all these homes and the houses in the back. And the city and the DPW don't take care of the grass, don't clean up. It's a couch over there more than 3 months.
Where's that on James? Where's that on James Street?
Yes, sir.
Going in on James Street there?
Yes. Between Charles and Jenny Street, the parking lot behind the bakeries.
Okay.
You go over there and park in the back, and you park your car over there. Is you can see rats over there. If the grass is too big, it's too high.
Okay.
And it's a lot of garbage. People go over there and pee, drinking beers, sleeping over there all the time. So it's not going on with that because the COVID-19 that's happened before. My question is, why didn't the city don't care that place?
Okay.
All right.
Make note. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Nancy?
There's a Harper. Harper?
Is that
Harper?
Harper, you said? Minister
Harper,
Harper?
yeah.
I don't see her.
Okay, unmute.
There she is. There she
Okay.
is.
Greetings. Can you?
Greetings.
Yes. You can hear me. Okay. First, hats off to DPW for their response during the storm. I must admit, I was very proud of the work that they did, and I hope they continue. That's the other thing is it is quite pitiful that here we are into a second and third generation in a city like the city of Englewood, and we're still discussing a community center. And I'm going to use the word disgusting because that's exactly what it is. It's disgusting. I really don't have much to offer tonight, but I do have a question for Councilman Cobb. Has there been a discussion about putting the Liberty School issue on a ballot so that the citizenry can vote on what to do with Liberty School and stop? My grandchild is discussing what to do to Liberty School. That's 3 generations.
Well, we could have that discussion with the other council members. You know that.
People vote.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then move. Thank you.
Consideration. Thank you.
God bless you all.
Okay.
Mute me back. Thank you, Yancy.
Thank you.
They can't put it on the ballot. It's already been promised to Sanzari.
Whatever.
That's the problem.
Let the record show. Let the record show.
That's right. Nancy?
Okay, next is Yesenia Gonzalez.
Yes. I saw her somewhere.
I'm right here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I see. I think we lost you. I didn't. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
I live on 2 Matledge Place, Englewood. So 2 things. I just want to reiterate what everyone has mentioned earlier about the community center in Englewood. I'm also born and raised in Englewood, and that's something that we've been talking about for my whole life here. And so really want to push for that. Secondly, I do want to know, I know it was mentioned earlier, what the city council plans on doing or the mayor plans on doing to kind of address the needs of those Englewood residents that are really affected by COVID economically. And we see the lines not only at St. Cecilia, but also at the Brigham Family Center. And they're providing services for a lot of families in need who've lost their jobs, who some of them might lose their homes. Some of them don't have money for food. And so I just want to know what, if not now, if the next meeting, what the city council and the mayor are planning to do about supporting those residents, or what services can be provided, or just anything in general, really. Thank you.
Mr. Cobb, if I may, on Friday, I'll bring up, Yesenia, all of the requests that came in to me and the responses that we got from Englewood Housing and the Health Department. If you join us on Friday at 11 o'clock, I'll give you a little smattering of some of the requests and then the responses. Sometimes the city doesn't have a treasury or the answers, and we have to go to the assembly and to the senators and members of Congress. So feel free to join. You'll get a lot of comments and content.
Great, thank you.
Pleasure.
Good comment, Yesenia. Next.
Mr. Cobb, before we continue, I just want to make sure everybody still only gets one turn to speak, because several people are raising their hand a second time.
Right. One time to speak. Today we go on in, we have the closed session.
So then next is Sunita Pond. I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your name.
Antone.
Antone, thank you. Pastor?
No problem. Thank you all so much. Good evening. First, I just want to thank Councilman Cobb for convening a meeting with all the providers in the city who are providing food to people during this time. It was a pretty sobering meeting for all of those, Justinian Center and St. Cecilia's Metro and a bunch of other people. There are a lot of people who are hurting in this community, and I just want us to make sure that we keep that on the radar at all times. But I also want to make sure that that I publicly express Metro's continued commitment to building a community center in Englewood, specifically at Liberty School, that our commitment remains, that our offer still remains, and we do hope that the City Council will put forth an RFP that specifically asks for a community center at Liberty School. And I think that as we talk about Black Lives Matter and all these different things, that we put a commitment behind the Black children, the Latino children, the white children in our community, and also the adults in our community. That's more than just what we say, but we're putting money and we're putting our commitment and space behind seeing people in this community thrive. And so I can additionally urge for an exact timeline on when the City Council will meet privately about this matter and determine what they'd like to do with Liberty School, and also make that timeline available as soon as possible to the public, including not only what you've already mentioned, Councilman Cobb, about meeting in the fall and hearing Joyce's reports and recommendations, but also the timeline for the City Council to move on this as well. Thank you so much.
Yep. Nancy?
Not seeing anyone else raise their hand. Anybody? Yeah, just a reminder to the public, bottom of the screen. Oh, there you go.
Well, we going to.
People are raising their hand a second time. You only have one turn to speak. I'm sorry, Janet Sharma. Janet.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone. I am glad to be here. And first of all, I want to thank the council for making the meetings on Zoom. And I encourage you sometime to have a daytime meeting. I think you would get more older people involved, certainly. Also, I want to thank the DPW. I don't live in Englewood, I live in Cresskill, but I come to Englewood all the time, and I appreciate the DPW's efforts to clear the roads because there were a lot of trees down. Also, I'd like to thank Mr. Volsi for your efforts to help make Liberty School a little bit more presentable. And the main thing I want to talk about is Liberty School. I don't like looking backward, I like looking forward, but I have to just recall that when I first started working with the Age Friendly Englewood Project 4 years ago, one of the first things that came to my attention was Liberty School and its potential to be a community center. And it's discouraging to see that it's still languishing, that there has been no action taken at all. I think there's a wonderful proposal out there from Metro Church, and I'd love to see something like that move forward. And I would love to see the council move forward with Ms. Studley and with others who can provide insight into what the community needs, the research that's been done, but also what are the financial implications, what are the other possibilities. In my heart of hearts, I'd love to see more low-income senior housing or affordable housing for seniors, for the servants, for the teachers and so forth who want to stay in Englewood when they retire. But I know that a primary need is for a community center that will serve people of all ages and the whole community, And I think it would also do something towards racial justice in Englewood, which is certainly needed. So let's get going and get moving on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yancy?
Anyone else with their hand raised? I'm just going to go to the next screen. Oh, there's a Mark Finkel.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much. Mark Finkel, 182 Hillside Avenue. I'm representing the Englewood Financial Advisory Board. As you know, it's made up of representatives from all 4 wards plus a representative at large. And our charter is to conduct reviews and analyses and make recommendations to the council. We have 2 requests tonight and 2 questions. So our first request is, as we go forward in this budget cycle, and second to what Councilperson Rosenberg said before, we did a terrific job last year in terms of speed and thoroughness, and the committee would like to be supportive of the council in this cycle. So our first request that you direct in writing to the city manager and this CFO to provide us with various financial information we need to help with this budget cycle. That would include the 2019 audit, that would include year-to-date financials and projections, that would include help on understanding where we are with the OpenGov transparency initiative. So that's our first request, is that the council direct them to help us with that. The second request is that we would like to be on the next agenda to propose an ordinance reinforcing the Standard & Poor's criteria for required financial and debt management plan, so we could have discussions about that. Then we have 2 questions for the council's consideration. One is whether the council would like our input on the financial management criteria to be applied to city manager job candidates. And secondly, a question for the council is whether a full or partial revaluation for commercial residential property will be necessitated for the COVID crisis. So thank you very much, and we'd appreciate if you would make that direction to the city manager and to the CFO.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mute themselves. I'm just going to go to the next page and see if anyone else has their hand raised. Not seeing anyone else.
All right, we're going to end this part of the meeting, the public session. Thank everybody for participation. Mr. Bailey?
Yes, sir. Be resolved by the governing body of the city of Englewood that it be in closed session to discuss litigation, personnel matters, and matters within the attorney-client privilege, and be it further resolved that the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public upon taking final action thereon, provided it does not constitute an undue invasion of privacy or violate the attorney-client privilege. And be it further resolved that the city will return to open session at the conclusion of the closed session, but is not anticipated that it would take any action at that time.
We have a motion. A second to closed session.
So moved.
Second.
We're now in closed session. Yancy, you gonna put us in breakout room?
Yeah, I'm just about to start assigning everybody.
Did you take a vote on the motion?
Oh, just need a all in favor.
All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Evening, everybody.
think we lost a few people along the way.
Motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Good night.
Buddy.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Hi, Lisa. Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Take care, Wayne. Be well, man.
Likewise.
Night, everyone. We're logging out.